How's it going, guys? I got a question here from Dennis ADW who asks, do I benefit from dual pixel autofocus in video mode if I use non-STM lenses with the ADD? I always thought that only STM lenses offered smooth autofocus. Am I wrong? Well, that's a really good question, and I think we should do a test to figure out if that's true. So I've got a collection of USM lenses over here and a collection of STM lenses over here, and we're going to do a test to see how well they autofocus in video with the ADD. Alright, for this first test we're going to be using the Canon 18-135 USM lens on the ADD. And basically what I'm going to be doing here is just touching on our subject here. I have the Force 1 drone, and I'll touch like on the background and see how fast it can autofocus on the subject. So it's doing a pretty good job. This lens is really smooth at autofocusing, even though it is a USM lens. Also, you can't hear it autofocusing hardly at all. I'm going to be quiet here for a moment and let's see if you can hear the autofocus working at all. The 18-35 definitely is one of my favorites to pair with the ADD because of that super smooth autofocus that's almost absolutely silent. It's also got some phenomenal image stabilization, so if you're shooting any video, this guy is one of the best lenses, just all around. You can shoot almost anything with it. Alright, so this is the 70-200, and I've got to back up a little bit because it has a minimum focusing distance of 3 feet. So now if I focus on the background here, and if we focus on our subject, very smooth, very reliable, but you do hear the lens kind of working on the inside, trying to move stuff around, which if you're recording audio, it's going to get in there just a little bit. Alright, so now we're going to switch over to the Canon 17-40, which is also a USM lens. Now this lens is quite a bit louder, I would say, and not as smooth as the last lens that we just checked out, but we're going to see if it is comparable or if there's any major differences to the other STM lenses. So I'm just tapping on the background and the foreground here, and it's definitely not as fast as the 18-135. I think that lens in particular is a special kind of USM, but this still is very, very accurate. I would say it's not as smooth, like the autofocus system is not as smooth as the 18-135. The other thing with this guy, and what you'll find on most USM lenses, is that the autofocus is pretty loud. So that's a taste of the USM lenses. Now let's switch over to the STM. Alright, here we've got the Canon 10-18 STM lens. This is one of my favorites for super wide angle. I'm going to move a little closer just because it's a wide angle and we'll see a bigger difference if I move closer. Just tapping on our subject here. Autofocus is really, really smooth and I guess cinematic, I would say. There is absolutely zero sound coming from this lens when it autofocuses, and it's really smooth and accurate. I think that's the biggest difference that I've noticed so far. Here we've got the Canon 50-1.4 USM lens. Let's test it out and see how it does at autofocusing. So you can probably hear it trying to autofocus here. It's quite a loud lens, and also it's not very smooth. Like, you're not getting cinematic kind of focus pulls here. It's really rough and kind of just stepping between the different focal lengths here, trying to get it in focus. It's definitely not got that cinematic look where it just smoothly goes in and out of focus. Alright, final lens here is the Pancake 24mm f2.8 STM lens. So now this lens does make a little bit of a sound. I'll play it close for you to hear in just a second, but it's really a smooth kind of transition from going to the background to the foreground. It looks much smoother and more natural than the really stepping look that the other USM lenses have. This is kind of a weird lens because the autofocus is not like mechanical like most of the lenses. It's actually, when you turn this, it's actually using a motor to autofocus, and it makes a weird sound. Take a listen. It sounds almost like a 3D printer. If you've ever heard of a 3D printer work, it sounds almost like that. Alright, so that was a really interesting test, and my hypothesis before that only STM lenses were really good at smooth autofocus is actually wrong. So generally speaking, that is very true that STM lenses are built kind of for video. So looking up the definition of STM lenses, they say that STM provides quick, silent, and smooth autofocusing, even smoother than USM, and this will be better when recording because USM lenses generally make more sound. But from this collection of 6 lenses, 2 of those don't actually follow that rule. The 24 is an STM, but it makes a sound, which is kind of weird and doesn't really follow that definition. And then the 18 to 135 is classified as a USM lens, but it's super smooth and almost silent. So to answer your question here, Dennis, yes, USM lenses are more geared towards photography where you don't need smooth autofocus, but these still work with video, especially since the 80D has such great dual pixel autofocus. And it's also generally true that STM lenses are smoother and silent, but really what it comes down to is researching the individual lens that you want to buy or rent. And first off, seeing if that has smooth autofocus like the 18 to 135, and then secondly, if it makes any sound, if that's going to be an issue for you. I hope this was helpful, and these tips can actually be applied to more cameras than just the 80D. It's just that this one is really, really good at autofocus. If you have any other camera questions, you can leave them down below, and if I don't know the answer off the top of my head, they might even turn into a video such as this one. Thank you for watching, and as always, don't forget to keep it pro.